As it turns out, despite how fun and flashy, fantastical anime fantasy designs can be, there's a reason that traditional classic soldiers were more humble, down to earth in their design, because it helped with their functionality a lot. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel.
Unicorn Overlord.
Hello everyone, if you enjoy what I do, my coverage of Unicorn Overlord, other turn-based strategy RPGs in general, or the gaming sphere in general, a like on this video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Also, do forgive me if sound levels seem a little bit off or anything like that. I finally got my new mic set up, and it is much higher quality, much more discerning when it comes to background noise. It's not nearly as easy for me to peak it. However, I'm also still experimenting with how I can move to keep my head properly in front of the mic to make sure it's picking up my voice. Not quite sure what levels I need to have in terms of editing with music and background and all that type of stuff. So forgive me if things are a little wonk for a couple episodes while I get things figured out, but it should be a much more pleasant experience for everyone going forward. Thank you. So what is the topic of the day today? Well, we are continuing our ongoing mini-series discussing some of the early game characters of Unicorn Overlord with a discussion of Soldier Chloe. Now, unlike Lex, who receives a lot of criticism, some of it fair, some of it maybe not, or Elaine, who's pretty universally good, but has some very focused things that he is good at, Chloe as a soldier is pretty well recognized as one of the more versatile, strong early game characters. And that's not necessarily because she's a big damage dealer or anything like that. She's not going to be out here completely crushing things. However, she has a lot going for her as a soldier. What are some of those things? Well, we're going to talk about it. First off, I do want to look at her stats, and this is probably one of Chloe's weakest areas, if not her absolute weakest area. The issue with Chloe is she has kind of odd stats in terms of her stats set. She's Growth Type 1 Guardian, Growth Type 2 Lucky, and as a set, this means that she generally has fairly poor offense and accuracy. Her physical attack is okay, not bad, but her magical attack is pretty poor, and her accuracy is pretty poor, and her crit rate is also pretty poor. So damage output is going to be not really Chloe's shtick. Now, what this does mean, though, is that she does have some decent defenses. She's fairly dodgy, 33 evasion compared to my Griffin Knight's 44, and I mean, looking at the two, they're both level 10, and Chloe with her C rank evasion is 11 points behind the S rank evasion Griffin Knight. So it's not terrible. It, the 75% of what the Griffin Knight has going on, not bad. She has decent HP, she's got decent physical defense, decent magical defense. She can take a hit. She just doesn't want to take a lot of hits, but that's good because it does mean that she's not super fragile like something like a witch or a wizard on the backline. And the backline is generally where you're going to want Chloe. You see, she has a variety of different abilities. She has 2 active skills at this point, Long Thrust and a Javelin, and then she has her First Aid skill as well as Powerful Call from a bangle that I gave her, the Dancer's Bracelet. Now, the reason that Soldier as a class is so good, and why it's so good that you get Chloe right at the start of the game along with the other starting characters like Lex, Joseph, Hodrick, Elaine, all that type of stuff, is how much she can do for you. The Long Thrust attack is phenomenal, attacks a column of enemies with a piercing strike. Cavalry targets cannot guard against this attack, and it grants plus 50 potency versus cavalry targets. This is going to be one of your strongest tools early in the game, because not only will it allow you to pierce through tanky frontliners to hit the squishy backline if they happen to be lined up in a column, but also, once cavalry does start to show up and potentially sweeps your squads, you will have Chloe here to be able to try and put a kibosh on that, getting some big damage on them, even if her physical attack is not the best. She also has First Aid, which is going to be one of the very few healing abilities that you have early in the game, and it's pretty good. I mean, activating at the end of a battle, restoring 25% of HP to an ally, that's not nothing. That is not nothing. As soon as you're able to potentially get her more passive points, or just have a fairly tanky unit in the front line that isn't going to take a ton of damage, like, say, Lex if you haven't built out right, First Aid is going to be a really good way of keeping your squad alive and keeping that tanky frontliner alive through a surprising amount of punishment. Once she hits level 10, she will get Javelin, which is a super nice ability. It is ranged, so you can target the backline with it. It attacks a single enemy for 100 physical potency, much like Long Thrust, except, single target instead of a column. But most importantly, gives a plus 50 potency versus flying targets. Now, this is a little weird because as a grounded infantry unit, Chloe is still going to have poor accuracy against flying units, but being able to have that extra damage is really nice. And if there's, ways for you to have a guaranteed hit through different types of abilities or equipment, then this could be actually a pretty good tool to drop flyers without necessarily having a ranger or an arbalist or something like that, or hunter, I should say, in the squad, which is good, very good. And again, being able to just target a squishy unit like a wizard or a witch, or a less squishy but still dangerous unit like a shaman, and start cutting them down a little bit early, very, very nice. Now, perhaps the most important thing that Chloe has going for her, though, is her Valor skill, Life Aid. This is a really nice utility piece. It only costs 1 Valor point, and it revives all incapacitated combatants in an allied unit to 1 HP. If you have a bunch of soldiers that go down in a unit, you can pop 1 Valor point and bring them all back before you heal them up with some more commonly used consumables. No need to pop powerful res items here, just have Chloe do it. Just burn a Valor, retreat a squad into the base if you have to get that Valor point, and boom, you can get a squad back on its feet with relative ease. And that's really where Chloe is so good. She gives you so many options so early on in being able to handle different situations that either you just don't have the capability to handle otherwise due to a lacking pool of units to draw on, or because there's just powerful, expensive consumables that you could use, but then you'd have to try and replace and you might need further down the line. Chloe could just do that for you. She is an inexhaustible supply of healing, resurrection, and buffs. And that's before she even gets to level 15 and gets Keen Call, where she can grant a 100% crit for an ally's next attack, which is huge. In the interim, I did choose to give her the Dancer's Bracelet, an item that you can find fairly early on in a few different shops that allows her to give plus 30% physical attack for an ally's next attack. And in the squad that I choose to run her in right now, where she has a Griffin Knight and Lex, the fighter, both on standby, ready to take that buff, they can deal really good damage. With this buff, a Griffin Knight can carve through pretty much anything on the back line if it doesn't guard or get blocked for. And then Lex actually can deal a surprising amount of damage, especially with his Sanguine attack, with that buff, which, if you're using the Sanguine Blade on him and you have the Sanguine attack, that's going to restore even more HP for him as well. So it's a really nice little setup. Once I have Chloe to level 15, I may not run this on her anymore. We'll have to see, but it's certainly a good interim measure. She has a number of other benefits going for her as well. As a soldier, she is considered infantry, which means that she gets the 6 stamina that infantry so very much tend to enjoy, as well as 100 mobility. Not fast, but not slow, all around pretty reasonable. And if you choose to make her your squad leader, you'll get the quick rest leader effect, which is really, really nice. Reduces the wait time while resting. This is huge. If you have a squad like this that is really focused on standing on the front line, tanking a lot of hits, weakening enemies, maybe holding a choke point, the ability to quickly get your stamina back compared to other units is crucial. There have been so many times where I desperately needed to rest a unit, and I did, and I just wasn't quite able to finish the rest by the time enemy reinforcements came in and slaughtered the squad. With this, you should be able to eke in those quick rests, and that's going to be awesome. Doubly so considering the fact that you want to finish any given stage as fast as possible to get the maximum amount of rewards at the end of the stage. So the less time that a squad is out of commission because they're resting, the more that they can be pushing forward on the enemy, clearing out squads, fighting the boss, etc., etc. Now, a trap that all-arounder type units like soldiers in Unicorn Overlord tend to fall into is that they kind of become a jack-of-all-stats, master-of-none situation, right? Where they're just not quite good enough in various different categories to really make a mark. That's what happened with Valkyries and Rune Fencers in the Let Us Cling Together PSP edition of Tactics Ogre. They were good at a bunch of different things, but never quite good enough to make it worth using them over more dedicated units. In Tor, they got a lot of really nice buffs that made them far more capable all the way through to the end game, and I think that's what we're going to be seeing here with soldiers as well. Again, Chloe's stats, not the best. You could potentially change that with a particular item that we will cover in a later video once I actually get my hands on it. Most of you know about it by now. It's the mirror you can get from the black market merchant later on in the demo, etc., etc. But even with these just kind of middling stats, of kind of average stat set for what she wants to do, her overall capability, thanks to her skills, cannot be denied. I've got some footage up here of various different mock battles that I've been performing with this squad against my other squads, and you'll see if you're paying attention, the vast majority of the success that those squads have is because of Chloe buffing them up. It doesn't hurt that I have a shaman in the squad as well who's able to debuff enemies and whatnot, but even so much damage comes out of Lex and Adrian, my Griffin Knight, because of Chloe, it's kind of really surprising. To say nothing of the fact that she's able to weaken enemy units in the backline with her javelin, hit through the front and the backline to weaken 2 sets of enemies at once because of her long thrust. It's really, really nice. Now, as we don't really know how a lot of these units are going to scale into the end game, it's hard to say how long she's really going to maintain her versatility, but I would be surprised if soldiers and their promotion got completely overshadowed here. I think Chloe's going to be a very useful resource for a good long while, and the fact that she comes in so early and is able to handle so much for you is huge. If you're looking for an example build for Chloe, these are the items that I have on her. A basic recruit's short spear, nothing fancy. There are some better options for spears in the demo, but a lot of them give attacks that Chloe doesn't really want, or stats that she doesn't really want, like magic attack, and it gets the job done. It gives her decent attack, it gives her a little boost to her HP, more XP so she can get to some of her better support abilities faster, always good. And then the key bits here are her Lapis Pendant and her Dancer's Bracelet. The Lapis Pendant giving her a second passive point, being able to cast more powerful calls or potentially first aids, depending on how the battle shakes out. Extremely powerful. Just being able to give 2 allies 30% attack buff with powerful call in one fight is huge. To say nothing of the fact that you could heal up to 50% HP on a wounded ally if you needed to as well. For her actual tactics loadout, again, I'm still working on getting the hang of this system, but from my testing, this has worked out quite well. First off, Javelin on a flying unit to try and pick off something or at least damage something that is quite dangerous. We don't have a hunter in this squad, so having some anti-flying when you can hit with it is pretty decent. Might want to change this around until I'm actually able to give Chloe more accuracy, since her accuracy isn't the best anyway, but it is an option that's there. Then, of course, long thrust on a full column. Pretty standard operating procedure here. You want to try and maximize the amount of damage that you're dealing with long thrust, and this tends to do the job. Then Javelin targeting the back row, lowest HP enemy if something has been weakened but not quite finished off. This way, Chloe can toss a Javelin in, soften it up, finish it off. Very good. And then failing all else, going to Javelin lowest HP. Just so, again, if something happens to still be standing or got hit by one attack, didn't quite get finished, she can try and finish the job with a cheeky Javelin toss. Does not hurt at all to have a variety of different setups here for different abilities, and it's been working out pretty well thus far. You can see, again, in the footage that I have up here that Chloe's able to contribute, not just in buffing her allies, but in damage as well, and that's not nothing in a game like this. All in all, Chloe is absolutely a character that you can slot into any unit, especially in the early game. You want the healing, you want the damage, you want the specific unit effectiveness, you want something that isn't going to completely crumble the second an enemy looks at it, and you want something that can hold some of these powerful accessories and use them effectively compared to other characters who maybe just want more guard rate or more attack or something that is going to give them a different type of boost that's more focused. Just slap some good support stuff on Chloe and watch her go. She'll be great. With that said, though, I'm probably going to wrap this one up here. My name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. Thank you all so much for watching. I very much appreciate it. If you have any particular builds or uses for Chloe or soldiers in general, drop it in the comments down below, start up a little bit of a discussion, or join the Discord and do it there. There's been so much discussion happening there. Until the next time, though, I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.